Hello everyone, Princess Peach is here with another rant video. This time, it will be on Snow White, 2025. Now let's get started. Oh my god. Snow White 2025 has got to be the worst remake of Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Snow White 2025? More like poop brown thumbs down. First, what on earth happened with the script? Did the writers completely forget how to tell a coherent story? The pacing is a disaster, and the film contradicts itself constantly. For example, when Snow White storms the palace to confront the queen, the people instantly recognize her as the princess despite the film previously establishing that she had been completely forgotten. Then there's Jonathan, a character the movie tries to sell as a Robin Hood figure, yet he does nothing to earn that title. He serves the king without ever showing any real connection to the people, so why should the audience buy into his supposed heroism? Gal Gadot's singing? A disaster. It was so strained that not even auto-tune could salvage it. Her voice cracked multiple times, and honestly, she would have been a better fit voicing the old hag than the glamorous evil queen. As for her acting, I expected it to be mediocre, but this was another level of lifeless. Even a GPS voice sounds more engaged. There was no depth, no menace, nothing memorable at all. It's baffling how she keeps landing major roles. The costumes? Atrocious. Whoever designed them should reconsider their career. They look like cheap knockoffs from a discount costume shop, completely lacking the elegance or magic you'd expect from a Disney production. And let's talk about Snow White's hair. Who thought it was a good idea to give her a style that makes her look like Lord Farquaad? Out of the hundreds of people working on this film, not one person thought, maybe this isn't the best choice? The dumbest plot points? Snow White's locket says both fearless and brave. These words mean the same thing. With a $209 million budget, you'd think someone would have caught this redundancy. The most absurd moment? The Queen's soldiers suddenly switching sides because Snow White remembers them. There's no real reason for them to turn against the Queen, other than the fact that Snow White's family once handed out apple pies years ago. If their loyalty was that flimsy, the kingdom should have collapsed long before. The CGI dwarfs? Nightmare fuel. They look like Alvin and the Chipmunks after a nuclear accident. Disney could have simply hired actors with dwarfism, but instead, we got whatever this was. This film is a disgrace to the original classic, a soulless, uninspired cash grab that lacks charm, heart, or any justification for its existence. I never imagined that Disney could have wrecked their prominent film into sherds. Although the movie has amazing give, it still cannot savor the amount of disappointment I have towards Disney future live-action princess movies. However, needless to say is the movie lacks steps and success in capturing people's attention. What the movie needs improvement. Gal Gadot acting I think is extremely underrated, but I think Gal is trying too hard to be a villain as the evil queen that she forgotten the other aspects and personality of the evil queen as a character. Rachel Ziegler acting I couldn't see any romantic attraction between Jonathan and Snow White. While Snow White was looking at Jonathan, I hardly seen any romantic attraction. However, on the other hand, if I didn't know the plot, I will think it was just two random people looking at each other. Gal Gadot singing I definitely hope and pray Gal practice more on her singing before the role, as her singing in Who is the Fairest of Them All is unnecessary and weird. The ending, I felt the ending was practically odd, how Snow White just awakened everyone's memories just by talking about their past lives, as I think it is just really mediocre and bland with Rachel's stiff acting. Overall, I hope Disney gets dwarfs actor the chance to act in dwarf characters instead of CGI, and writers not to put female empowerment in every Disney movie, as I believe as a female girls can be female bosses or pursue true love, so does boys. As believing in female rights shouldn't all place one gender above other. Also, can Disney cast someone who loves the original for their princess, not like Rachel, who spoke numerous times she was scared of the ride in the original movie. The prince stalked the princess, and an actress that respects their co-stars, where she said in an interview maybe all Andrew scenes will get cut, who knows, it's Hollywood baby. P.S. Rachel, if you don't like the role or the original movie, don't apply for it. Bye. Lots of people will love to act Snow White and plus can Disney find an actress or actor that fits the cartoon? Terrible. Not only did the film stars disparage the cherished original tale by labeling it eerie, the legacy of Snow White was completely destroyed by the actual authors, directors, and other team members who worked on this movie, completely altering the plot. Make another film and call it something else at that point. Gal Gadot's terrible performance as the evil queen, who had the chance to shine but was unable to save this mess, is, in my opinion, worse than the story being altered. She is portrayed as a one-dimensional caricature rather than a genuinely frightening antagonist. In addition to the awful persona of Rachel Ziegler, her performance veers between ridiculous theatrics and uninteresting moments, never achieving the proper balance as she delivers her lines with the depth of a cardboard cutout. How could her character ever be seen as affectionate, gentle, vivacious, and modest? Snow White has never been described as opinionated in any universe. Her personality is evident in this adored character. Employing real little people rather than the awful computer-generated imagery of the 7 dwarfs, they have no personality, no chemistry, and, to be honest, no reason to continue and hire new performers. Change everyone, improve your public relations staff, and manage your actors. Even woke news outlets despise it, so it's not even about woke stuff anymore. The independent, lazy, visually repellent Guardian, exhaustingly awful Disney has trashed its reputation. The Times it was a strange, hot mess. A HuffPost ScreenDaily's Listless good enough. For TV Vanity Fair film has a major identity crisis. A BBC. Not to add that Snow White's singing has changed genre. Rachel's voice is supposed to be celestial and angelic, but now it's just a conventional pop song. Her voice doesn't help, though perhaps that's because of the writers. The most well-known songs, such as My Prince Will Come, were altered because they didn't match their shoddy narrative. A dull bandit guy, who has no chemistry with Snow White, takes the place of the usual prince. Snow White continually saves him in situations that seem more absurd than empowering, and their interactions appear forced and unpleasant. Her role as a leader frequently comes across as entitled rather than inspirational, particularly when she pushes the dwarfs around, breaks into a house, and takes over someone's bed. The kindness and grace that characterize the Snow White we know and love are very different from this. Disney's Snow White is dull and something no one really wants. They took one of their most famous fairy tales and made it into a self-righteous, lifeless lecture with poor computer graphics. The lesson in this film is how to ruin a classic in under 2 hours, so watching it is like doing homework. If I could, I would go back in time and watch paint dry instead. The new Snow White is a cinematic train wreck so abysmal it makes you wonder if Disney's just trolling us now. This isn't a reimagining, it's a lobotomy of a classic, a joyless, preachy slog that stomps all over the original's charm and replaces it with a mess of bad CGI, worse writing, and a cast that looks like they'd rather be anywhere else. Let's start with Snow White herself, played by some poor soul who's clearly been told smirk more as a substitute for personality. This isn't the sweet, resilient heroine of old. She's a girl boss caricature who spends half the movie lecturing the dwarves on empowerment and the other half staring blankly at CGI apples. Her singing? Auto-tuned to death, like a Siri cover of a lullaby. The romance with the prince, sorry, non-binary forest guardian now, is so devoid of chemistry it's like watching 2 cardboard cutouts bump into each other. The dwarves, the dwarves. Disney's bold update turns them into a generic squad of quirky hipsters. One's a vegan influencer, another's a tech bro with a drone, and none of them feel like they belong in a fairy tale. Gone are the distinct personalities. A dog, grumpy, dopey, replaced by a focus-grouped blur of snarky one-liners and forced diversity that lands like a lead balloon. Their CGI makeover is a nightmare too. They look like rejected Pixar rejects with uncanny valley faces that haunt your dreams. The plot? A convoluted mess. The evil queen, played by a slumming A-lister, hams it up like she's in a pantomime, but her tragic backstory about patriarchal oppression feels tacked on and laughably earnest. The mirror's now a snarky eye voiced by an overpaid comedian who won't shut up, and the poisoned apple bit gets swapped for some eco-warrior subplot about saving the forest from a logging corporation. By the time Snow White dies, spoiler, she doesn't, because stakes are for suckers, you're begging the Comet to take you instead. Visually, it's a disaster. The budget clearly went to overblown green screen forests that look faker than a theme park ride, while the costumes are a garish mix of thrift store rejects and haute couture gone wrong. The musical numbers are because of course they kept Thusia are forgettable slop, with lyrics so on the nose. I'm strong, I'm me, I'll break the chains, you'll cram yourself into next week. The choreography looks like it was improvised by a TikTok dance crew on a lunch break. And the message? Hammered in with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Every 5 minutes, someone's preaching about self-love, systemic inequality, or climate changing and noble ideas drowned in sanctimonious drivel that forgets this is supposed to be a fairy tale, not a TED Talk. Kids will be bored, adults will be insulted. Snow White 2025 is a soulless cash-in that buries its legacy under a pile of woke cliché tilde copyright tests, shoddy effects, and a script that feels AI-generated ironic. Given the mirror, Disney's poisoned this apple themselves, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Skip it, burn the DVD, and rewatch the 1937 version to cleanse your soul. If Disney is so afraid to offer one specific community just because of one actor, then it's a good sign to leave the classic alone. A Minecraft movie is way better than Snow White 2025 Nightmare Fuel. Well, that's all I have to say. See you next time.